Welcome back. Gora the Explorer, episode 6. Today about how to not get too skinny on a diet, which we know from the South Asian community is a massive, massive concern with how people guilt, shame you. Your auntie tells you to look too skinny, and ultimately you don't want to look like your face is drawn in and look like you're a dead body when you're going on a diet, because the way that you perceive yourself, the way that you look, is really important to you and why you're going to get in shape. So here's the set point of how you can get in shape without getting too skinny. But what you need to know about is normally why people end up giving up diets because they quote unquote get too skinny. So most people lose weight, especially within the South Asian community, have a large amount of belly fat. And in that belly fat area, there is a large amount of fat cells. But at the same time, is when you look at everywhere else in the body, the arms, the shoulders, the chest, the face, there's not that much fat in those particular areas outside of maybe a little bit of a chubby cheeks. So when you lose 5 to 10 kilos, and those areas you don't get to choose where it comes off, right? So you generally just lose percentage over time. So you end up getting less fat in particular ways for where your skin, your in your face, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, and then you never really get to see the belly come down, and therefore you feel like you've got this skinny face, these skinny arms, these skinny limbs, and then you still have this belly in the middle, which can be super, super frustrating and can lead you to feeling quite helpless because you're in a rock and a hard place. Now, the biggest concern that most people come to me with when we're getting them in amazing shape is that point where they've lost 10 kilos, 15 kilos already. And then they're like, I don't want to get any skinnier, but I still have a belly. And that's where that conversation has to come in, this really important one, which is that in order to lose belly fat, you need to be able to lose it everywhere. And there's a moment of understanding what the long-term play is here. What I suggest to my clients is when you lose the rest of the belly, yes, your face will be skinnier, your shoulders will be skinnier, your arms will be skinnier, but you'll have a belly that you don't want anymore. And you'll feel a lot better by not having a belly than a little bit more of a drawn-in face. However, the best part is that in the reverse dieting phase, or what we call the anti-yo-yo phase, after you finish the diet, when you do things appropriately, you go into a reverse diet, you go into a maintenance phase, you actually get that fullness in the cheeks back. So you don't actually lose anything. Yes, you won't be as chubby cheeked as you were when you were 20 kilos heavier because you don't have that much fat on you, but you don't lose the feeling of that skinniness in the face. So it's always a trade-off. And when you want to look at this, the people that I see that are most affected by the quote unquote too skinny lot is people that value opinions of other people. They're quite impressionable. They care. They've probably had some sort of, like, I don't know, not trauma previously, but they've had some elements of where their family members' comments, their sisters' comments, their aunties' comments over years and years and years about particular topics of who to date, what to do, when to wipe their ass, when to eat, when not to eat. You shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. They get quite affected by other people's comments, and it can affect their relationship with their own goals and get them put off, which is half of my job, is to kind of keep people on track with the goals that they've got, as opposed to listening to other people's opinions. So let's just talk about the other people's opinions for a moment before we go into what is too skinny. So if your auntie has never lost weight before, her version of skinny will be relative to what her perception is. Your version of skinny will also be relative to what your perception is. And my skinny is also relative to what my perception is. Now, for me, skinny is not a negative terminology. It just means that you are slender. But I also quote people that are malnourished as skinny too, but that determines that you can see ribs, you can see bones, and you can see these, really, really sunken in faces. I would call that skinny. Whereas anti-bar might not see that as skinny. She might see that as horrible and might see skinny as someone that's 70 kilos that looks actually good. But the vocabulary, the terminologies, the communication that people perceive is a really, really important factor into understanding someone else's perception. And that's why I always ask people to explain what they mean when they say too skinny. So if you can't articulate it, you don't know it. And if you do articulate it, you'll find that you don't have the same opinions as someone else. So if you ask your auntie, you ask your mum, what's too skinny? What part of me is too skinny, or what part of her is too skinny? Oh, I don't like this, and I don't like that, and I don't like this. And then you can start build a picture of what they believe is too skinny. But ultimately, when you know that the belly fat is still there, you have to make a choice between whether you're going to continue on reducing belly fat or continue on letting your face your arms, your legs, and their appearance stop you from getting the results that you need to. Um, and that's really important. So there's no way that you can get all of the belly fat off without there being a skinny element to things. I think most Indians and South Asians should quest for skinny, because in the quest for skinny, you will reduce your body fat, you'll reduce your levels of obesity, you'll reduce your heart health issues, you'll reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. Um, and I know that there's lots of particular frameworks of generations who have come from India to the UK, and the scarcity mindset, and like kind of the kind of repression, and all the variables that go into the psychological fundamentals of why people think skinny is not useful. There are those that playing a hand now, but for those that are in the UK, for those that don't have limited access to food, who don't have limited access to funds, who don't have limited access to education, water, running water, food, there should be a rewiring that happens within this generation, and it is happening now, where we look at not food as like this thing of like, if I have more of it, I'm secure. When I have more of it, it shows my abundance. When I have more of it, it means that I'm healthy and happy, and other family members can see it. It now is obviously that is taken too far, and now come to a point of where too much is too much with food, and it's having negative health consequences because of that. So we should be questing for some level of skinny in comparison to other people's perceptions. And most people's perceptions of skinny is probably healthy, especially when healthy is chubby within the South Asian community. So most importantly, there will never be a lean physique without there being a perception of skinny. When I did a photo shoot, when I've done like competitions, photo shoots before, and getting really, really lean, there's never been a position of where I've dieted and not felt smaller as a person. Remember that when fat cells are bigger than muscle cells, which means that per density, you lose fat and you lose density. So you, by proxy, it doesn't matter what diet you go on, doesn't matter what method you utilize, doesn't matter if you're high protein, low protein, you will lose density of your body as you go in a diet, because fat cells are larger than muscle cells. So therefore, your frame will decrease. And when you want to go in a diet and you want to change that, you have to accept that that's going to be a reality where you are going to decrease in size and decrease in density and decrease. And therefore, the feedback that you get from when you wear a large t-shirt to a medium, or an XL to a large, or a size 16 to a size 14 dress, or a 10 to an 8, you will feel smaller in them. And there'll be a point of where that feels amazing. And then there'll be a point that tests your belief because you've never seen an 8 before. Or most commonly, what I hear from clients, I haven't been a size 12 since I was 14. And it freaks them out because they think they're a schoolgirl again. It's like, well, not really. You were a big schoolgirl. Like, you shouldn't have been a 14 when you're 14 years old. So we have to rewire sizings. We have to rewire those feelings and thoughts. So I used to get it when I was doing photo shoots. Back to the original story before I went off on a tangent, was when I would wear the t-shirts that I wore for ages. So I'd wear the same t-shirt, and that would be hanging off me, and now I'd feel skinny because you couldn't see any of the gains that I'd made, because these t-shirts were drowning me. I looked like a hanger within a t-shirt, and I just hadn't adopted all of these new mindset frames to be able to not feel skinnier on a diet. One of them was buying clothes that actually fit. Like, really important that you don't just go and wear your large t-shirts if you're actually a small, just because you want to save a few quid, because that feeling makes you feel like you're overdressed. You're always baggy clothes. You're not wearing tight stuff or stuff. You're like, I could quite easily fit into a large on these Lululemons, but the small sits very well, but also sits very well on the upper body. Like, I'm choosing to wear clothes that fit. I have a tailor that does my pants and my belts and stuff like that, because I want to look good within the clothes that I've got. And that often led me to feeling quite skinny when I didn't have these variables in. So you can feel skinny by your own accord, by the things that you wear and how it reflects into yourself as well. And then the second part is the training side of things too. So when I was a PT on a gym floor in central London, most people would come in And we'd have these remarkable transformations, because you can build a lot of muscle tissue when you train someone 3 or 4 days a week, and they pay you stupid amounts of money. When I was working at a company in central London, where basically you got to control them for 12 weeks, and you could do anything you wanted with them and smash them, and hit them with the gym like all the time. They'd do anything you want to because of the amount of money that we're spending on it. And over that time period, I realized that, if you didn't actually want to get skinny on a diet, or whilst you're losing weight, it's like weight training will build muscle tissue. And if you do it intensely and appropriately, it can be a useful, really big mechanism for you to get stronger. Now, even if you have, the protein intake is really important, but that's not the topic of conversation today. Even if you have a lower protein intake, the way that you train will always out determine how much protein you eat to some degree, especially at the beginning of your training sessions, at the beginning of your lifespan of 6 months, 12 months, learning how to train properly. If you go into at the beginning of your diet with week 0 and week 12, and you're still using the same weights, you're going to be too skinny. You're not going to build any muscle tissue. You're going to have no shape. You're just going to look like a skeleton, because you didn't choose to build the things that you can control. There's only a couple of things that you control, not the skinniness, which is muscle tissue, how much fat that you have, and how much water retention you have. You only have those 3 elements. You only have muscle, water, fat. And if we want to get rid of the fat, we want to get rid of the water. The only other thing that shapes our body is muscle tissue. And having the combination of all those 3 areas in different combinations allow us to have different shapes of a body. Some people like, a little bit more fat around the midsection. Some people like it no fat around the midsection. And some people like, the higher muscle tissue look or lower muscle tissue look. Is totally up to you. But most importantly, having a choice when you get to those points, when you have it, is really important. So building muscle tissue changes your physique and changes the look of your physique. So if week 1 you lose using the 5 kilo dumbbells to press the dumbbells, and you then use the 40 kilo dumbbells by week 16, you will have a big chest. You will have a much bigger chest than you had before, and therefore the shape of your body will change, and the shape of your chest will change. And then when you do the same thing for legs and shoulders and arms, and you spend enough time on this body shape will change in alignment with what you want. And that's not spoke about enough when it comes to the intensity of training. When I was a central floor PT in central London, I would near enough make grown people cry because of how hard I was pushing them in the gym, because they never knew they could push themselves so much. And it was always this moment of shock where you take someone in the gym, you push them really hard, and they're like, holy shit, I'll be capable of that. It's like, yes, everyone's capable of that, even if they go to the gym themselves. That's why I don't do PT anymore, because you can get the most out of it online. But you can literally train 50% harder than what you're doing right now. There's a study that showed this, right? Check this out. It's called RPE, rate of perceived exertion. So they got someone to do an exercise in the gym, and they were like, oh, how many more reps could you do? And they were like, oh, I definitely couldn't do any more than 3. And then they were like, okay, cool. They rested. And then they told him to do it again, but they perceived to then motivate him, shout at him, tell him he had to do it. And he then ended up getting 50% more repetitions. So for someone that said he couldn't do it, to then get 50% more repetitions just by someone screaming at him, shouting it, or knowing he could do it, it shows you that the mind in like training stance is much more the limiting factor than anything else that we have. It's not your joints, it's not your muscle tissues, it's not your nutrition that you had that day. It's literally our mind changes our dynamics of how much we can push. And I've been in training sessions before where I haven't really wanted to work out, and then my progress has reflected that, yeah, I can't be bothered lifting this, or maybe I'll just use a weight that's lower than this, or I can't really be bothered. Like I just didn't have the right music on or something like that. And then you get those days where the music is the right music chance. You're super focused. You've had your caffeine, and you're like, right, I can do this. And you smash that weight out, and then you make some progress. And the mind's that limiting factor. So if you don't want to be skinny when you're moving into like finishing off your diet and getting in amazing shape, you have to look at from 0 weeks to whatever week you're finishing your diet on. You need to be like 50%, 100%, 150 times stronger than you were to carry that muscle tissue. For females, it's infinitely more important, because that's what creates the shape that you have of your body. If you're 60 kilos now overweight, 70 kilos overweight right now, you will be by proxy 40, 45 kilos soaking wet without the fat on you, which is not a weight that you want to be when it comes to maintenance, when it comes to living your life lean or just in general in shape. So you want to build as much muscle tissue, not only for the benefits of like childbearing, menopause, just general strength. It is going to be super important for you to shape the body that you have, because otherwise that's when the skeleton underneath does come out. If you don't have anything, there's only three things, like I said: muscle, water, fat. You can't shape muscle. Sorry, you can't shape fat, you can't shape water, but you can shape muscle, and you can change muscle the easiest way out of all the three that is more sustainable long term for your health. So that's what's going to change your ability to not be skinny. And the last thing that is not, he's going to really stop you from, or he's not going to, he's going to help you to not get too skinny, is looking for visual shapes, not for scale weight or someone else's opinion. So, for example, did my first ever diet. I was 80 kilos and I got down to 59 kilos. Now, 59 kilos sounds low, and I never really cared about it at this time, but after working with so many South Asians now, when I mention the word 59 as a guide, like, oh, that's way too low. And I'm like, but I looked fucking great. Like, why does that matter? I looked amazing. I had abs. I looked bigger. I looked amazing because I was the illusion of being bigger because I was leaner. And most people forget that there's an illusion to fat loss. If you drop 10 kilos, it makes you look like you've gained 10 kilos of muscle. That's the easiest way to gain 10 kilos of muscle, is lose 10 kilos of fat. So when I was 59, I had this amazing physique, but I was low on the scale. And I just wanted to be in shape. I didn't care about the numbers. But then after speaking to all my clients, they were like, I'm not going to go below 60. I haven't been under 60 since I was 14. Or I haven't been under 80 since I was 16. And and then this moment gets in their head because they relate it back to a time frame that they've been to. You know, if you were 80 at 16, you were just a large kid that should have went on a diet years ago. Like 80 kilos at 16 is large. And just because you're relating that back to that now, you shouldn't stop yourself from going below 80, because it was abnormal back when you were 16, not abnormal now that you're going back below under 80. So I would really, really recommend you forget about weights of what you were when you were 16, or forget about weights that you were when you were 18, or sizes that you were. Oh, I haven't been a size 12 since I was 16, and I don't want to go any lower. That's holding the South Asian that community back massively, because without you going lower than what you think, you're never going to achieve something special, because we're always the limiter to our beliefs of what's possible. And I've took, 1,000 South Asians below, 65, 70 kilos, and they all are thankful for it because they get in amazing shape and they finally get the physique that they want. The people that say, I don't want to go below 70, or the people that say, I don't want to go below 60 because it'll be too skinny, are the people that actually never get the results, and they're constantly on diets, and they're constantly, moaning about not being in amazing shape. The confidence is shot at, the relationships are shot at because they're constantly on a diet and then they're always miserable, and they never actually get the results. So, most of the information that you need comes down to accepting that you probably will be skinnier, branded skinnier than you have been before, but that's probably a good thing, especially if it's against your own beliefs, because you need to challenge your beliefs, challenge what you think to get to that next level. Because if everything you believe was true and you were acting in line with that, you'd already be in amazing shape if that was the thing. Because our beliefs, our habits shape the way that we look. And if we're not in amazing shape already, our beliefs and habits are crap, are not as good as they should be. So we can change those massively by challenging that. So I would urge most of you, if you'll look at it opposite, I'd look at it as pride. I'd look at it and say, hey, I'm actually under 70 kilos. I'm probably not going to die early. I'm not going to have type 2 diabetes. I'm probably going to be able to see my kids grow older. I'm now can get in smaller sizes, so I don't have to pay extra for my t-shirts. I can get in kids jeans. That's cheaper than proper jeans. And I would look at it as a positive. When the South Asian world look at weight, they look at less is worse. Whereas in the fitness world, it's kind of the opposite, and it kind of the opposite in a way, where there's a bell curve, but a lot of the benefits come from you not being obese. A lot of benefits come from you not being super chubby, and staying in that BMI range of 23 or below, 19 to 23, and staying there. And we should be celebrating that. We should be celebrating you getting skinnier, because that means you're going to be live around longer, and that's also pretty awesome as well. So hopefully this was useful in some way, shape, or form. I'm just rambling as best as I can do to give you some information, but ultimately there is an element of that. You will be skinny into some, so to somebody sometime you'll be skinny, you know. Even at my fattest, when I was like 82 kilos, 85 kilos, I was probably skinny to somebody. And that's just the way of the world it is. How to overcome the skinny fat structure. I think this is a very common challenge. Yeah, I just spoke about that. Basically, build more muscle tissue so you shape your body, but get the fat off so that it looks like you've got some shape to your body, and get all the fat off. This might be a weird question, but can breast tissue be lost the same way fat can be lost in any other part, or is there to do a special exercise in the gym? No, well, trust me, I would not be on live to 7 or 8 people if I had the secret formula to how to make boobs bigger with the exercises in the gym. That's for sure. I would be driving around in my Bugatti somewhere, um, talking to OnlyFans models and how to get their boobs bigger. No, so fat tissue, breast tissue is fat tissue. So there is breast tissue itself. It's a lot more smaller than what most people imagine breast tissue to be. There is a large portion of fat tissue that hangs around the breast. So most people do end up losing breast tissue or like breast fat when they go on diet. So they get smaller hips, smaller butt, smaller boobs. And for some people, that can be right tough and it can be a bit more disheartening. But again, it's choices. It's like, would you rather have a small waist and small boobs if you're not genetically gifted, or would you rather have big waist, big belly and big boobs? And there's not really a trade-off between those two ever, unless you're going to go and see Dr. Turkey and get some nice new implants. But there's nothing you can do exercise-wise within the gym to navigate increasing or reducing breast tissue, unfortunately. But it is a common subject where people or females want to keep the breast tissue that they have or the breast that they have, but they don't want to give up, and but they want to get rid of their waist or their belly, or the area that doesn't really align to them. But you can't have everything. Fitness is a game of teaching you reality, which is you just can't have everything that you want. You can either, if you haven't built up a large amount of muscle tissue, you can't have a massive bum and a lean belly. You got to have a bit of each to get a bit of each. And that's the same with the breast stuff. You can't have a big belly. You can only have like a bigger belly with some bigger boobs as opposed to the opposite way around. So it's it's a lesson of trade-offs, if that makes sense. I wonder if there's any more questions whilst I'm here. Interesting topic. Can you please how to increase protein intake? I mean, protein intake is rather simple per se, just hard to implement. You've got to eat more food. You've got to eat more proteins. That's obviously like the key to this. But when you eat more protein, it challenges your belief of like meals. So if you're so used to not having full meals, if you're so used to not having a large quantity of things like tofu, paneer, chicken, you'll feel it's quite weird and you'll not really enjoy it. Um, but you go two ways with this. If you like eating meals like eggs and the tofus, the chickens, the produce side of things, veggie or non-veggie, just put more in your meals. That's literally the easiest way to do it. Like just put more in what you need. Then if you don't like having bigger meals or you don't like having those things, then you do the opposite, which is you just have snacks between your meals that bump up your protein intake, from protein powders to protein bars to protein crisps and yogurt and berries and various different like concoctions of those things. And they're the ways that you get it in. There's no sexy way. Ultimately, most people who I think have a resistance to increasing their protein intake just don't enjoy the protein itself, whether it's eating more of that thing, or they don't like the taste of the protein powders, or they have some push against them. But that's a choice at the end of the day. It's like um, if you don't like having more of those, you've either got to force yourself to get to like it and get to enjoy it, or you don't get the benefits from it, or find something that you can do that increases that. Ultimately, like I don't like saving money, so then when I don't save money, I don't save money, and then I don't get that result. But then it's the same as sometimes you have to do things that you don't enjoy to get a result that you want to get. So if you don't like eating large amounts of protein, if you don't like to have portions of protein in large quantities, or make the extra effort to have a protein shake or a protein bar, hit these things on a day-to-day basis, then if you don't want to do those things, you don't get the outcome that you desire as well. So you have to get used to doing some things that you don't want to do, or in a way that you want to, for the outcome that you want to achieve. So most people know how to increase the protein intake. They just don't want the hard answer that is, you either have to eat more of the things that you're eating already, or you have to find protein bars, protein shakes that you will eat consistently to top up the protein intake. There's no other ways to do so. And then obviously the other one, and that's a good question, Kush, is the eating a lot of protein that's whole food and vegetarian. So the thing with the whole food stuff, so let's talk about Rajma and Chana. If you want to put quinoa in there, those type of protein sources, which I'm assuming that you're talking about, they're not really that proteiny. Like, we class them as protein with our clients who we use like traditional food with, and we help them eat that type of foods, or various different Rajma dishes or Chana dishes, for example. But in the context of real protein that gives you muscle tissue or gives you recovery, it's not the same thing. I've done a video on this before, but like the protein that is in Rajma and Chana is not the same protein that's in chicken, eggs, or yogurt. Yogurt, that's American yogurt. So you won't get the same benefits. Yes, it says protein. Yes, you might hit 30 grams, but you're not going to get the same benefit from that. So you have to change. Like, if you like, ultimately, like, you got two options. I speak to my, obviously, in South Asian clients. You got two options. You either eat whole foods and don't get your higher protein in, and you don't get the benefits, or you change some of your food sources to get the benefits, and you change. Like, that's the two options. If you eat whole foods, cool. Don't expect getting bigger muscles. If you want to have whole foods frequently, that's cool, but you need to change for tofu, paneer, corn, Linda McCartney sausages, yogurts. You need to have those more often than the Rajmans and Chanas if you want the outcome of having higher protein that does more for you. Like, it's not the traditional veggie diet is not optimal for muscle building. Otherwise, every South Asian would be fucking jacked, but we're not. So it's about understanding what you have to trade off, and you just can't have everything you want to have. Like, I would love everybody to, like, having dated in the community, and done, very much my time in the community, is like, it would be so much easier if chana, tapioca pearl, rajman, pav bhaji, all of these things that have some degree of potato and lentils and all that stuff, is it would be great for us, and it would build muscle tissue, but it just doesn't. So, what we offer our clients and what we say to our clients, and I'm giving you the inside scoop here, is like, a lot of our clients just want to lose fat, right? So if you want to just lose fat and you want to maintain a healthy body, we can do that with the Rajma and Chanchanas. We can do that with the curries, the variations of veggie curries, etc. You can do that. But if your goal is specifically building muscle tissue, or you want to optimize things like hair, skin, nails, cognition, sleep, muscle tissue, gym performance, that's where you have to look at, okay, the type traditional food is not serving you for that thing. It's like a KFC, but Indian. It's like KFC does not serve you to be the best food for your day, right? Because it's grease, but it can be utilized. It just won't give you the best effects. Whereas the more you want a specific goal, the more you specific have to do the outcome and the process for that. So what that means is that you have to take some things that you don't normally have to get the goal that you need to get. So more protein shakes, more yogurt in higher dosages, like 2, 3, 400 grams per one. Things like having more low-fat paneer, specifically tofu, corn, all of the veggie sources like that, more than the rajman and chanas or the veggie curries, because that's what the goal needs. That's what the goal of that needs to do. Let me give you another example. I explain to my clients when they talk about like struggling with for protein intake with the veggie diet. It's like, you've got 12 months to save for a house. And let's say, for example, the house is, you need £12,000 to save for the house, very cheap house. But you've never saved before. So maybe the first month you save 400, and then every month after that you save 400. You've done a really good job of saving, right? You've done a really good job. But you haven't saved the right amount for the house, so you don't get the house. And that's the same as the veggie diet when it's traditional and like kind of not tailored and not customized, versus saving £1,000 a month will give you exactly that thing. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do to get the result that you want to get. And if you stay in your own lane and think that £400 enough to save, you'll not get the result that you want to get. So pure veggies who want to keep the food traditional will indefinitely not build as much muscle or have as much productivity or efficiency within their protein intake, which gives you cognition, mood, benefits, sleeps, muscle performance, gym performance. It will not be as high as if you changed it for different variables. But that's just the way that the cookie crumbles. And same way, if I don't eat chicken and I have different sources, it would affect my performance because of what's in those foods. Anyway, that's a long ramble from a question by Kush. So, guys, got a call. I'm going to speak to you soon. Any questions, any queries, hit me up and chat to you soon. Bye.